Fingers crossed. Going live. All right, we are live. We are live now. Let's see if I am officially live on Rumble. I'm streaming on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter today, and also we got Instagram right over here on the side. We are going to get this started right now. Let's go. We are on Rumble. This is my first time streaming on Rumble. Moving in the future, I'm going to try to transition over to these different platforms. And we are also live on Twitter. Let's go. Hey, if you're in the chat right now, say what's up. I'm going to be talking about the 2024 presidential elections. We're going to be finding common ground like we do in every single one of the live streams that I do. I told you all I would be live streaming again regularly, and here I am live streaming regularly. And now that I have platforms that I know I can speak freely on, it just makes things much better. Happier scenario, less stressful, because when you don't have those alternatives, you're usually just hoping you don't say the wrong word at the wrong time. But now, if I do that, well, we got Rumble, we got Twitter, and I'm hoping that they continue to maximize on their free speech. Rumble is doing much better than Twitter right now on the censorship and who's censoring more, who's censoring less. Rumble is definitely winning, it seems, as far as these platforms go, the bigger platforms. One thing I want to talk about is, Dianne Feinstein passed away, I think, yesterday. And it's just wild that our political structure is so problematic today that a politician passes away while they're in office instead of being replaced. And the thing is that if the Democrats would see strategically, they would have replaced Dianne Feinstein with somebody younger, sharper years ago, but they did not do that. And it's unfortunate that they essentially strung her along the whole time until she is gone. There's this tweet I want to read from Joey Manorino. It says, Gavin Newsom said he will nominate only a black woman to replace Dianne Feinstein. Barbara Lee is already running for the seat, so that would seem unfair. Karen Bass just got voted in as mayor of LA, so you'd think she'd keep her current job, but who knows? Who do you think will replace Dianne Feinstein? And essentially, what this is showing is that in California, with some of the top positions in the state, they're currently being appointed by top politicians instead of being elected by the people. And this can result in highly problematic scenarios. This tweet from Lee Fang says, Gavin Newsom has appointed the California Attorney General, Secretary of State, and now has the chance to appoint both U.S. senators. All the most powerful positions in the state were selected by hand by Newsom, not the voters. And that should be a massive red flag to all of you. That being said, I've been in politics on the back end for years of my life and got to experience why appointments can even happen at the rate that they do. And that's because there aren't enough people in politics. That's really what it comes down to. Most people just want to sit there and complain about politics, and they don't realize that they can go and fix it themselves in politics. All they have to do is just go into politics. The problem arises where most people don't want to get involved in the political system because most people know what it entails. And from my experience, what it actually entails in practice is very similar to what people who aren't in it think it's like. It is not the best environment to be part of. And I hope to change that with our generation and generations after that recognize and can behave in a way that is more conducive to building and growing instead of fighting. The problem with the state apparatus, centralized government, is that the system was designed to be negative and one where people are fighting all the time. So it's really a systemic flaw, if anything, of the state. Do I believe that we can evolve on that? Yes, I do. And that is part of what I like to talk about when I'm doing these live streams. All right, let's see. So we are going to be just checking out all these streams right now. And we're waiting for some more people to hop in the chat right now as well. Here's another tweet from Asarchus that I liked. Most of the people feigning outrage over making fun of dead politicians never seem to care about all the graveyards they've filled, all the poverty and hell they've hoisted up upon people, all the lives they've ruined. Never a word about it. So, when Dianne Feinstein passed away, there was so much on the internet about how she sucked, and a lot of people had no remorse for her passing. And this tweet essentially is super real because if you make fun of the dead politician, then you are evil and people are outraged and blah blah blah. But we don't talk about how many innocent people lost their lives because of what specific politicians with their decades of actions that show resulted in. So I saw a meme with John McCain that said, like, don't worry, Dianne, it's a dry heat down here. So these are more things I wanted. Hey, what's up, y'all? If you are in the chat, say what's up. Let's talk. I'm going to be here for a little bit today. We got a handful of people joining in all these chats right now. I am streaming on Rumble for the first time ever. Needed all but 5 followers there to make that happen. And now we got those 5 followers. So if you're not watching this on Rumble right now, please head over to rumble.com/AmirZenOfficial and subscribe to my new Rumble channel. All right, before we continue, I'm going to do what I love doing, taking some Specker Deep Recovery. Drinking some water infused with, of course, Redmond's Real Salt, which is from a single salt mine in Utah. And we're not going to get a focus. Great. All right. Redmond's Real Salt. You can buy it at many grocery stores. You can get it. Where else can you get it? On Amazon. There are a lot of places you could buy it. And, comparatively to Himalayan salt, which doesn't even mean anything and it doesn't even come from the Himalayan mountains. This is pink salt as well, but it's just American grade pink salt. And you can actually verify exactly where it comes from. And you can talk to the company as well to ask them any questions that you might have, which you can't do when you're getting some random pink Himalayan salt. Um, now that I'm on Rumble and Twitter, it's funny because half of my streaming is on platforms where I can speak totally freely now, and then the other half are places where every time I've even attempted to speak freely, I was threatened and shadow banned, and that is not a fun experience if you've been pretty much erased from the internet before. Um, this was actually something I wanted to read about Bach and I'm going to transition this over into some scientific studies about health optimization that I want to read you all. Studies that really more people need to read, which is why I write summaries on a lot of these scientific studies that I read at the Specker Library. You can check that out at speckerhealth.com. It is a full library that has scientific articles on lifestyle, all the ingredients used in Specker products, health. So you can go in and read summaries of these in-depth scientific studies, and then at the very bottom, you can actually go click the link of that study and go read the whole thing yourself if that's what you want to do, which is what I recommend. I put that link at the bottom so you can go read it, and then you don't have to end with my summary. You can just go read the whole thing word for word. This is a post from Dr. Kat Lindley on Twitter about the medical benefits of prayer. So, all right. Let's read this. It says, did you know Johann Sebastian Bach, the musical genius, lost his little daughter and then 3 sons and then his wife? Then he remarried, and then he and his second wife lost 4 more daughters and 3 sons. 11 beloved children. Many researchers have wondered how Bach managed to handle these losses. How did he not stop breathing? How did his heart not stop? And most importantly, how could he continue to write music? Cantati, cello, suites, masses, concerts, the most beautiful music the world has heard. Do you know how he did it? At the end of his music, he always wrote, Soli Deo Gloria, glory to God alone. And in the beginning, Lord help. Therefore, you can pray during Bach's music because the music itself is a prayer. This is very interesting. You could then consider Bach's music a conversation between man and God. How do you deal with pain? Worship is the best solace. Prayer is considered a form of medicine, and it falls into the complementary, alternative category. It has similar benefits to meditation. Praying increases release of dopamine. I'm not going to correct that. As a side note, dopamine plays important roles in executive function, motor control, motivation, arousal, reinforcement, and reward through signaling cascades that are exerted via binding to dopaminergic receptors at the projections found in the substantia nigra ventral segment area and arcuate nucleus of the hypothalamus of the brain. If you noticed, my tone got a little when I started reading that because this person is clearly using the dopamine independent theory, and that's just not true. The endocannabinoid system modulates and regulates all functions of dopamine and the dopamine system. So this is essentially the alternative thought, which usually comes from not reading enough research past dopamine. So if you read about the endocannabinoid system, you'll actually know. You know, it's funny. I'm going to read a study after I'm done with this, and we're going to transition into dopamine. All right, so I'm going to continue reading this instead of just talking shit. So this is the thing, this is why I implore people to go learn science themselves, because if you learn science yourself and you get really in depth with it, then you could read these things yourself and just catch the bullshit so fast. And what people often do is they use these big words when they're talking, and they don't even know what these big words mean, and they just say it anyway. So it continues. Prayer can calm your nervous system, shutting down your fight or flight response. The endocannabinoid system modulates and regulates your fight or flight response, not your nervous system. That's another misconception. It can make you less reactive to negative emotions and less angry. Prayer elicits the relaxation response. So ultimately, what this post is trying to say is that prayer can be proven biologically. And if you've been on my streams before, seen my other videos, I talk about spirit science all the time and being able to prove that our spirituality and our connection with God can be shown using the same scientific standards that we use for the other things in this external realm. So it continues. It also releases control to something greater than oneself through secondary control, which can reduce the stress of needing to be in charge. Prayer is a go-to habit for stress management because it can improve release of testosterone and related androgen hormones such as DHEA. I wonder where DHEA comes from. I wonder if that's I'm gonna read this deal. So this is just showing that people think they know what they're talking about. And a lot of the times they're literally just talking about the endocannabinoid system without even knowing what the endocannabinoid system even is. So, for uh, DHEA is a derivative of DHA, and these are endocannabinoid analogs. So they're working within the endocannabinoid system, and endocannabinoids are also fatty acid derivatives. They'll be derived from omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, and other things as well. All right, I'm gonna finish this. Oh gosh, it's so funny because every time I start reading these scientific things, I can't. It's I can't stop. I can't not stop and tell you all why these people have no clue what they're talking about when they're talking about science. Because this post essentially should be about the endocannabinoid system, and it's just talking about everything that's modulated and regulated by the endocannabinoid system. But since most people in the science, health, medical space literally don't even know what the words the endocannabinoid system is, it's going to be pretty hard to understand. But it's just unfortunate that people still are using all of these ideas that were debunked decades ago, like the endorphin theory of bliss, which is an endocannabinoid boost that's happening. It has nothing to do with your endorphins and your opioid system. But people will still say, "Oh, my endorphins! I feel so good from the exercise because of the endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin." But they never say the one thing that's actually controlling all of those, the endocannabinoid system. All right. So when we intently and consistently pray, we increase the blood flow to our frontal lobes and to our anterior cingulate, which causes the activity in the emotional centers of our brain to decrease. Do you see what they do? They just like using all these big words, and then I know what all these big words mean. And the average person reading it doesn't understand what these big words mean. So when they see something like hypothalamus dopaminergic, they're like, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. that helps us develop the capacity to make responses that maintain and even sense peace. There's definitely skepticism out there about the healing powers of prayer. But at the end of the day, when your soul needs respite, few words may make a difference. So, the premise of Johann Sebastian Bach getting over all of these horrible traumas is by using specific techniques to balance and regulate your body, primarily with the focus on your endocannabinoid system. And by focusing on your endocannabinoid system, that's the master regulatory system of your entire body. So as a result, what do you think is going to happen? All right. So that being said, I said that I was going to read a study. This study is called endocannabinoid. Sorry. This study title is called Endocannabinoid Modulation of Dopamine Neurotransmission. Also, if you're in the chat right now, I see we got multiple people in these chats. Don't be a lurker. Say what's up. I'm here to chat. I'm here to answer questions and just have a fun time reading over some of this stuff for the time being. So I'm going to read you about this study. So because I wrote a summary to the study. And it's important when I'm making a lot of these claims, like, oh no, the theory of dopamine independence is just not valid because we have these other studies that literally say the exact opposite. Here's another study about CBD and dopamine. It's titled The Involvement of Dopamine Receptor in the Actions of Non-Psychoactive Phytocannabinoids, which means non-psychoactive phytocannabinoids such as CBD. They also used CBDV in this study as well, I believe. But we're going to read about that too. So, actually, you know what? I'm going to pop up this study right behind me real quick so you all can. Actually, no, I'm just going to read this. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to read about endocannabinoid modulation of dopamine neurotransmission. That's the name of the study. So if you want to go research the study, you can either go on speckerhealth.com, go to the library, type in dopamine to the search bar, and read what comes up. Or you're going to listen to me talk about it right now. And if you want to read more, you can go to the Specker Library, or like I said, you can type in endocannabinoid modulation of dopamine neurotransmission PubMed into Google and you'll get the link, or you can get the link from speckerhealth.com at the bottom of each one of these articles. So this study, so I start out by saying the endocannabinoid system is a crucial player in regulating nearly all physiological processes in the body, including the brain. It has been shown to be a primary regulator of dopamine neurotransmission, a major neurotransmitter in the brain, which are involved in cognitive, emotional, and motor aspects of goal-directed behavior. You see, I agree that it does those things, like that person who was writing the post about Bach. But I don't agree that it's an independent factor in your body, because it's not. So this 2017 scientific review highlights the existing knowledge on how the endocannabinoid system controls dopamine neuron function through modifications in synaptic strength at midbrain and striatal sites, suggesting these two systems are even more unified than previously thought. Remember, this is from 2017. So a lot of this science is not brand new. We've known about this for years, and this is a newer study as well. This has been talked about for many years now, about endocannabinoid modulation of neurotransmitter systems, for example. The endocannabinoid system is a vast signaling network that controls synaptic transmission throughout the brain and periphery. And its interaction with the dopamine system are critical for several behaviors and neuropsychiatric disorders that were previously considered dopamine dependent. So, what dopamine dependent means is that it is independently focused on dopamine doing that action, and as a result, it's cascading into the other actions of your body. However, this is not true. This theory is false. So we're going to continue on this. The review emphasizes the importance of the endocannabinoid system in controlling dopamine neuron function and raises important questions on the subject. Studies have shown that endocannabinoids play a critical role in regulating dopamine neurotransmission in the brain. They do this by filtering dopamine input from midbrain and forebrain regions where they're processed and transmitted downstream. The endocannabinoid system acts locally at the midbrain and terminal regions, shaping how incoming information is processed by dopamine neurons and transmitted to output targets. It helps to control the firing patterns of dopamine cells, the release of dopamine, and its effects on the brain synapses. Cannabinoid receptors in the brain modulate the strength of excitatory and inhibitory synapses, allowing them to control the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine and arguably every other neurotransmitter system. The importance of the endocannabinoid system in regulating reward and motivation is further underscored by its involvement in drug reinforcement. This is very important, y'all. Addictive drugs target the brain's reward circuits, leading to the release of dopamine and hijacking of normal reward learning mechanisms. The endocannabinoid system plays a critical role in this process, with mounting evidence identifying it as an important conduit by which addictive drugs access brain reward circuits. By manipulating the endocannabinoid system, it may be possible to develop new therapies that can help to restore normal dopamine functions in these disorders. So you see where we're going here. And this is, again, why I implore everybody to do their own research, because if you're doing your own research, then you can counter old science yourself instead of having to rely on somebody else to figure it out. And this is the road that I've gone down. This is why I write these summaries so that you can have access to them as well, because I'm sitting here reading all these scientific studies day after day after day, reading thousands of them. And I just felt like I was doing a disservice by not sharing the information that I'm reading in these scientific studies. Hey, what's up, y'all? If you're here right now, say hello. Let's chat. I'm talking about dopamine neurotransmission right now and how the endocannabinoid system modulates and regulates dopamine neurotransmission. So, contrary to popular health belief that you would hear on the top health podcasts, it is not dopamine, 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 dopamine. You know, it's funny because it kind of goes to that quote of, if you say something enough, it'll become true. And that's essentially what's happened with Matt James. What's up, Matt? You stoned right now, bro? Me? I would very much enjoy taking a fat bong rip right now. So no, not stoned, but I am what I call a cubbed out on some Specker Deep Recovery right here, Matt. So that being said, I'm going to continue on this this discussion on this study about dopamine. This is really important. I mean, one of the reasons I'm live streaming as much as I am now, and one, because I can, because I know that if this platform and the other ones block me, I can still keep talking and still keep getting the message out. Before, it was just, when you get blocked, you're done everywhere kind of thing. But now that we have places like Rumble, we got Twitter. Follow me there, Amir Zen Official. My handle is Amir Zen Official on all these social media platforms. So please do your boy a favor and follow. My goal is to get this information out to as many people as possible, because what we're seeing in the health space today is that they are pretty much saying the exact opposite of, you see what I'm reading right over here. So I'm going to continue reading this. Let's see. Does MDMA has any effect on what's up, NYC Persians? Please complete your sentence over there, and I would love to answer that question because MDMA does all psychedelic experiences are modulated and regulated by the endocannabinoid system. So you can insert any drug you want. If it's psychedelic, then it's modulated and regulated by the endocannabinoid system. The endocannabinoid system is the primary regulator for psychedelic experiences. And to the point I'm making right now, it's not about your dopamine levels. It's about what your endocannabinoid system is doing first. Your dopamine levels are downstream to the primary root of your body, which is the endocannabinoid system. So this is another thing too. Actually, this is really important. When people say things like, does it have an effect on dopamine levels? And again, going into these health podcasts and the guy who says dopamine literally 50,000 times a day in his content, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Dopamine is not, there is not just one dopamine receptor. There's not just so, and I'm going to read about this as well because, for example, this other study on CBD and dopamine, it's focusing on a specific dopamine receptor. So it's very similar to when you talk about cannabinoid receptors. You have multiple different. Yeah, you said it, Matt. Yeah. Yeah, like, yeah, Mr. Doesn't know any, like the normie who just knows how to say some word, and now everybody says that word, even though when I ask people what does that even mean, people can't, like, seriously, you have to ask yourself, if you use these words often, you should really ask yourself, just independently of anything you see on the internet, if you're saying the word dopamine all the time, dopamine fast, dopamine hit, dopamine whatever, and somebody asks you, what is dopamine? Could you actually explain it? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. And go down a road in your life where if you're saying, oh, it has antioxidants, well, what does antioxidant mean? And this is the thing about, reading about the thing about Bach that I was just reading. See, Matt says dopamine equals feel good. That's all people know. LOL. That's what happens when you all get your health advice from normie doctors. That's literally what happens. Dopamine equals feel good shit. That is just not true. Your dopamine receptors can do multiple different things. And that's the funny thing that people don't realize, is that receptors are structured in a way so that if something goes into a receptor too hard instead of not enough, it is the difference between a good and a bad feeling. That same exact molecule could be a partial agonist or a full agonist into the same exact receptor site and still have different effects. So when people say like, oh, I want to boost my dopamine, I want to get a dopamine hit, it really doesn't mean anything. Scientifically speaking, it really doesn't mean anything. So thank you for your questions. If you're here right now in the chat, I'm streaming on multiple different platforms right now. We got our first stream on Rumble. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram right here. If you're here, what's up? And I'm also on YouTube as well. So I'm going to be on these platforms until, they start striking me. But that's not going to happen. So we'll see what happens. All right. So I'm going to continue this, and then I'm going to talk about these different dopamine receptors, like, for example, the dopamine 3 receptor. So we're going to get there. We're going to get there. But that's the point, is that people need to recognize that when they're using these words, you're essentially using marketing buzzwords. You're not using the words in a real scientific sense. And that's what I implore you to do, is literally stop listening to the normie podcast doctor bros and just go read this research yourself. I am literally reading you my summary of me reading the study. So All right, we're gonna continue this. We're gonna end this one real quick. So the endocannabinoid system plays a critical role in this process, with mounting evidence identifying it as an important conduit by which addictive drugs access brain reward circuits. Okay, I'm going to read that again. With mounting evidence identifying it as an important conduit by which addictive drugs access brain reward circuits. So, do you see the endocannabinoid system is what plays that essential role, not your dopamine system? The dopamine system is downstream. So, by manipulating the endocannabinoid system, it may be possible to develop new therapies that can help to restore normal dopamine functions in these disorders. In conclusion, the endocannabinoid system is a crucial regulator of dopamine neurotransmission in the brain. And the review provides an important overview of the existing knowledge on the role of the endocannabinoid system in regulating dopamine neurotransmission and highlights the importance of further research in this area for the development of potential therapies for neuropsychiatric disorders. So, if focusing on the root cause was actually dopamine, then these pharma drugs that they make that are dopamine receptor targets would probably be working better, but they're not. And now I'm going to read about this other study. It's titled The Involvement of Dopamine Receptor in the Action of Non-Psychoactive Cannabinoids, which I was just talking about. And that's going to be about CBD and CBDV and how they bind to dopamine receptors. So again, when you take advice from the normie doctor podcast bros, they're going to tell you to take, and I've seen the recommendations of the synthetic drugs that they tell you to take to help you with dopamine neurotransmission. And never heard them say CBD before, but I would argue CBD is one of the best natural compounds for balancing and regulating your dopamine system, because CBD is arguably one of the best natural compounds to balance and regulate your entire endocannabinoid system. And again, these other neurotransmitters are downstream, but as we're seeing here in this study, CBD does bind to those dopamine receptors as well. And that's the awesome thing about CBD compared to THC, is that CBD works on so many different receptor sites and it doesn't directly bind to cannabinoid receptor 1 the same way that THC does. THC confers its benefits of getting high and that feeling by being a partial agonist to CB1 receptor. And CBD does not bind directly to the cannabinoid receptor. It has action on the outside of the receptor, and it's called an allosteric modulator. So that's how CBD works on cannabinoid receptor 1. But as we're seeing here in this 2021 study, and if y'all are in the chat right now, say what's up, ask your questions, let's chat. I'm going to be here for a little longer. We're chatting about politics, but now we've switched over to talking about some scientific studies on health optimization and how you can get there as efficiently as possible. So that being said, this study found that CBD and CBDV bind to dopamine receptors. So in a 2021 study, researchers examined the potential impact of CBD and CBDV on the dopamine pathway, a neurotransmitter system involved in various physiological functions such as movement, motivation, reward, and cognition. By observing the swimming behavior of the nematodes, the researchers found that both CBD and CBDV seem to affect dopamine signaling, suggesting that these compounds interact with the dopamine pathway. So if you're in here, say what's up, ask your questions. Hey, what's up, everybody? I am streaming on multiple other platforms. If you're here on, let's see, we got some comments here. Wow. Not going to tell you my location, Matty boy. So in previous research, it has been suggested that CBD may act on dopamine receptors. However, this study is the first to show that CBD acts as a partial agonist on dopamine D2 like receptors in living organisms. So, do you see that there's a D2 like receptor? The researchers found that both CBD and CBDV induced a temporary cessation of movement known as swimming induced paralysis in the nematodes, which suggests that they act on the dopamine pathways. Swimming induced paralysis is a standard technique that's used in studies to measure the impact of various compounds on behavior and movement. It's crucial to note that paralysis in this context does not indicate the same thing as it does in humans. So that's why hey, what's up? If you're here, say what's up, ask your questions. I'm going to be here for a minute. I'm on Instagram right now, but I am streaming with my nice camera on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Rumble. We got the first Rumble stream right now, and I'm pretty stoked about that. And I am going to be live streaming on Rumble a lot more moving forward. So to continue this, let's see. All right. In previous research, we read that. Let's the recent study provides evidence that CBD and CBDV may act as partial agonists on dopamine receptors, which results in changes in behavior and temporary paralysis in the nematodes. These findings are significant as they help us to better comprehend the mechanisms of action of phytocannabinoids and their potential therapeutic benefits in treating neurologic and psychiatric disorders. By potentially mimicking the dopamine molecule, CBD, and activating the same receptors as dopamine, CBD and CBDV can affect the dopamine pathway and lead to various physiological responses. The phytocannabinoids were only partially effective compared to dopamine, suggesting that they act as partial agonists on the dopamine receptor, dopamine 3, or dope 3 is how it's. In addition, the study found that the dope3 receptor, homologue of the mammalian D2-like dopamine receptor, is involved in the effects of these phytocannabinoids to induce paralysis, confirming their agonist activity on the dopamine pathway. The absence of paralysis in DOP3 mutants and presence in N2 wild type animals suggests that CBD and CBDV act via the DOP3 receptor to promote paralysis. Hey, if you're here right now, say what's up. We're talking about dopamine and CBD right now, and dopamine neurotransmission in the endocannabinoid system. Got Shake Mills says B before C except for CBD. Damn, bro. I like that. Hey, ask your questions in here. Let me know what's up. Say hello. I see we got multiple people in every single stream right now, so don't be a lurker. I love y'all. Let's chat. So what's up, Swaggy? How you doing, man? Good to see you in here. Let's chat. I am talking about dopamine neurotransmission and the misinformation that you hear about dopamine all over social media and in almost every viral video I've ever seen on the topic. But I'm here and we're going to change that because we're going to talk about the real truth out here and hopefully not get erased in the process. So how y'all doing? It's really good to see you all here. Thank you for joining. I'm going to be streaming multiple times a week. I am streaming multiple times a week right now on a bunch of different platforms. And over these next few weeks, things are definitely going to get more and more spicy as I transition more into streaming on the other platforms where I could actually say what I want. So that being said, to continue on the, what I was saying before about different kinds of dopamine receptors, as you see here, these dopamine receptors are different in other animals even, and compared to us as well. And that's the same with a lot of receptors. For example, a lot of animals have an endocannabinoid system, but their endocannabinoid system is just structured differently. So it's a very interesting outlook to see how these different animals are so similar to us, but then so different at the same time. And it shows that perhaps we do have common single ancestor. And who knows? Common single ancestor of the high above. God bless. Hey, what's up, Elon? Hey, so I'm gonna be here for a minute. We're gonna be talking about some scientific studies and some angles on health and science that y'all just do not hear anywhere else. And we're gonna be talking about these topics until these topics are mainstream and that people are not saying fake news like the theory that dopamine is uh, independent in its action, which it's not. So, the discovery that phytocannabinoids such as CBD and CBDV act as partial agonists on dopamine receptors has significant implications for the therapeutic potential of these compounds in disorders characterized by abnormal dopamine signaling. So, hey, I love you too. I love everybody, and the world needs more love. So, Shake Mills, I love you, man. Thank you for saying you love me. Keep spreading that love, man. So this includes conditions like schizophrenia. So remember, the point of this study here is that a compound like CBD can be a useful treatment for these health problems that are otherwise known as uh dopamine dependent, independent. The dopamine is independent of itself, or dopamine dependency. Like the dopamine is necessary for this to happen, even though it's just not true. The endocannabinoid system is the primary biological system that's necessary for that. So this includes conditions like schizophrenia, where dopamine signaling is known to be overactive in certain brain regions. Further research is necessary to understand the precise mechanisms underlying the potential of phytocannabinoids for the treatment of these disorders. Nonetheless, this study offers crucial insights into the ability of phytocannabinoids to affect dopamine signaling and influence neurological and psychiatric health. So if you're in these chats right now, say what's up. Hey, Shake Mills says Amir is dope. Peter Ordinary says I love dope. Dopamine. Oh, that's funny, man. Hey, let's chat. Ask your questions in here. Let me know what's up. How are y'all doing? We got a handful of good fools, good homies in this chat right now. It's good to see everybody here. So this study, and remember, I wrote everything that I'm reading right now is what I wrote. These are my summaries. And again, you can go read these fully yourself at speckerhealth.com at the Specker Library. This study presents significant findings in the current scientific landscape, where there is a growing interest in the potential of phytocannabinoids such as CBD and CBDV to treat a range of disorders. And before I continue, if you don't know what CBDV is, CBDV is just another form of CBD. Personally, I'm for me, CBD is just naturally what you need. So I'm not too interested in going deep into these other minor cannabinoids that pretty much do the same thing that CBD already does, as we see in this study. So, with dopamine playing a crucial role in reward and pleasure regulation, it's gained significant attention in recent years for its involvement in a variety of disorders, including addiction, depression, and schizophrenia. The study sheds new light on the therapeutic potential of these phytocannabinoids and highlights the important role of the endocannabinoid system in regulating the dopamine system. This study paves the way for the development of new natural treatments for neurological and psychiatric disorders that have been traditionally challenging to treat and opens up new avenues for research. As interest in natural remedies and the complexity of the human body grows, the study marks a significant step forward in unlocking the full potential of phytocannabinoids and the endocannabinoid system. So, as you see, this is very recognized and understood already in the actual scientific research. But as you see, there is a major gap between what is viral and mainstream and what is readily and freely available for everybody to see. So, hey, we got Desi Beatnik in here. Hey, what's up to you too? Good to see you in here. Thank you for joining the YouTube stream. Much appreciated. So how is everybody doing here today? Let's see. We got a few people in the chat here. Let's go. We're chatting. We're live streaming here until we're in the millions. And I'm gonna be watching this clip very soon when the up and up has happened. So that being said, I got another study that we're gonna be reading here. Let's see. We're talking about dopamine right now, remember. So this other study it's going to go way more in depth essentially. This study is the potential role of CBD on sports recovery. And this is a narrative review. This goes in depth, y'all. The thing with these studies, and this is a scientific review, so it's a compilation of a bunch of different studies. So if you ever hear a review in science, that's what that means, which is awesome because essentially a group of scientists go and they read all these studies for you, then they compile it into one concise study, and it is just so much easier, especially if you're just learning, because then you can go through their review and then they have the links to all the references. So then you can use that to just go deeper down the rabbit hole and learn even more about these different topics compared to, a single clinical trial on a specific topic. So this is a review on sports recovery, and we got a Specker deep recovery. I am very sold on the science of CBD as one of the top natural compounds to use for sports recovery, if not the single best compound. I'm still trying to decide what I believe the single best, but it's definitely one of the top. Very close to being the best. Natural compound. When we're talking about, sports recovery, spirituality, I try very hard to stay away from synthetic compounds. And if synthetic compounds were so great, then why are there no synthetic compounds that we know of that have the immense potential that, well, I mean, you could synthesize CBD as well. So, but generally speaking, most of the CBD is coming from natural sources. You could technically synthesize it in a lab. But my point is that, a lot of these supplements, these health supplements, they're synthetic. They're synthesized in a lab. Yeah, the CBD isolate that I use is made in a lab, but it's not synthesized. It's not taking multiple different other compounds, putting them together, and then creating some new compound, which is what compounds like Delta 8, Delta 10, THC, these new cannabinoids that you're seeing all over the smoke shops. Those are synthesized. However, those are found in tiny amounts naturally in the plant, but the reason that they synthesize them is because it's way more affordable and way easier to do to just create it in the lab over, taking a cannabis plant and then finding 0.001 delta 8 THC in, and then somehow isolating that all the way down. If you know anything about extractions, that's just not the efficient route to take. You can do it. It's very costly. And in this consumer market, a lot of the times it's about getting costs down, because even just the CBD market, I mean, back when I first started fucking with CBD and using CBD isolate, kilos were going for $40,000 a kilo. That's 1,000 grams, $40,000. So, the prices have dropped a lot more since then. But, the whole point is that if these are consumer compounds that should be sold to the consumer, then the price does have to be low. So you can't go buy some, or people just won't buy it. It's like if these drops had these minor cannabinoids in it and they were naturally extracted, the bottle would be like $1,000, thousands of dollars. If you actually naturally went through this entire process, the amount of starting material you would need, it's inefficient. That's why people are using synthetics. But I'm talking about cannabinoids, and we could just cross that synthetic discussion over into all other um, health compounds. If you have to make it in a lab and it's not found in nature, or that's again, if it's found in nature but you can't really get a high amount of it easily, then it might be problematic. So that's why I always recommend to people, really, when you're taking a lot of these health supplements, the vitamins, minerals, like whatever supplements, you have to recognize that even though a lot of these companies will say that it's natural and it comes from natural sources, it's just not true. Like when somebody says they have natural vitamin C or something, that's just not true. You have to synthesize ascorbic acid in a lab. You don't just go extract that from a plant, unfortunately. And there are now people who are extracting from these actual plant chemicals from these plants, but they still have to go through specific chemical processes to make the supplement. So all right, we're gonna continue on this. Let's see, how's everybody doing today? I'm gonna continue on, and after I am done reading this study, I think we're gonna be done for the night. But I'm gonna be streaming here multiple times. If you're watching this right now and you're this far in, please like this video, give me a follow or a subscribe or whatever word it is on whatever platform. Rumble's a follow, YouTube's a subscribe. What is it? Instagram is a whatever. Don't care about Instagram anymore. Twitter is a follow. So, all right. So I really enjoyed reading this review as well, because like I said, it was just so in depth. This is from 2021. It's important to note that these studies have been coming out for decades. The endocannabinoid system was first described in research in the late 80s. 1988, which is the year I was born, is when cannabinoid receptor 1 was first discovered and mentioned in the scientific literature. So, I'm 35 years old. We've come a long way. And every year, there's more and more and more and more research that keeps coming out. All right. So, I titled this one, How CBD is Revolutionizing Athletic Recovery, a Science-Based Perspective. I come up with the titles myself, too. Oh, man, if only y'all knew how long and how much just time and power it takes to read an entire study, understand the whole thing, and then be able to translate it into normal speak, but also keep the article in a length that is short enough to continue grasping people's attention and not be so long that essentially you feel like you're reading the exact scientific study, right? I want to help segue people into becoming scientists for themselves. And if I'm writing, full summary detail, then it's going to be very hard for the average person who's just learning about this stuff to grasp. So, all right, let's remember, y'all, to drink your water, You can mineralize your own water as well by just adding some salt into it. What a crazy concept, right? Instead of going and buying synthetic pseudo-nutrients from your choice of whatever social media influencer who you know who can sell you the best by saying the best pretty words. You don't need the synthetic magnesium and synthetic potassium. Go for the natural compounds first. And if those natural compounds aren't working, then go explore the realm of the synthetics if you want. However, from my own personal experience of experimenting with so many of these synthetics and these naturals, that's what I'm saying. Really go through everything that you can before you accept a medical intervention. Essentially, when you say medical intervention, that means you're going to go synthetic. So try everything natural before you go and do the synthetic things, even if that means light. Like, before you go do red light therapy, why don't you just go outside in the sun and spend more time outside first? And if you do that for a while and still nothing, then maybe the red light therapy might be a good use for you. However, if you haven't already maximized on the natural practices and you're just immediately jumping to the synthetic practices, then I always look at things like, if I was in the pure state of nature, would I have any of those synthetics with me? No. So I try to live as naturally as possible. And I recommend other people do it as well. It's just more efficient, healthier outcomes, and it's much more affordable as well. These synthetic compounds that barely even work cost a lot of money. So, that's why I'm so sold on CBD. It's like, why would I go and buy those 10 supplements over there where this research here is saying that CBD does this better, CBD does this better, CBD does this better, CBD. Okay, then I don't even need those synthetics. So again, go with the natural first. Even this sauna, ice bath shit today, you have to realize that that's not natural, right? You're going into a controlled environment. You're going into an ice bath for 3 minutes. But I ask you this, you can go into an ice bath for, oh crap, we just lost our battery life. I hope that did not happen. Hold on, I'm gonna switch this battery out real quick, y'all. Sorry about that. Man, this happens, and I really always hope that when it happens, let's see. All right, let's test this. All right, we're back. We are back. All right, cool. Awesome. We were only out for great 3 minutes. Awesome. Woo. Okay, we're back now. There we go. All right. So, I was saying the synthetics, the naturals, you were born equipped with so many superpowers. Go deep within and find all those superpowers before you try to find those same superpowers externally. So if you're all in this chat right now, say what's up. I'm going to be here for a little longer. I'm going to read about this study right here, and then we're going to peace out for the day. And we'll be back again tomorrow. Let's see. I'm actually going to step up for a minute. All right, we're back. We are back right now. All right. Now we're going to end up with this awesome study. like I said, I really, really enjoyed writing about and reading. So if you're in these chats right now, say what's up, ask your questions. I'm gonna be here for a little longer, and then I am probably gonna be back again in a few days. All right, so CBD is becoming more popular among athletes for its potential to aid in recovery from physical and cognitive exertion. CBD is legal for use in sports as it has been removed from the list of prohibited substances by sports federations and international institutions. Remember that. As a result, the commercialization of CBD has led to a race to study its properties, benefits, and risks for health and performance in athletes. This 2021 review explores the potential role of CBD in sports recovery through a narrative analysis of current scientific evidence. So before we continue, remember, we're just going for root cause here. The root. Go to the root first. And from the root, go from there. Don't start at the branches, start at the root and go out from there. And most of health today starts at the branches, and the branches are just saying, where's the root? Why can't we find the root? Well, you'd find the root if you weren't looking up in the branches. So, scientific studies have demonstrated that CBD has several positive properties, including anti inflammatory, neuroprotective, analgesic, anxiolytic, which means like anti-anxiety, and analgesic means pain relieving properties, which could potentially um which could potentially enhance recovery in athletes during regular training and competition. Now, before I continue, CBD is pretty much my main supplement that I use in my sports recovery, and THC as well would be a secondary. So phytocannabinoids are pretty much my primary line of defense as far as external compounds go, not the natural things that I already have within me, like my breath work, yoga. These are natural things I have within. But for natural compounds that are external to me, phytocannabinoids are epic comparatively to other sports recovery supplements. So the review highlights the importance of the endocannabinoid system in sports recovery and exercise recovery, making CBD's interaction with the endocannabinoid system beneficial to athletes. The endocannabinoid system, responsible for maintaining uh, balance and regulating functions such as pain and inflammation, is activated during exercise. So if you were listening earlier in this stream, I was talking about how the endorphin theory of euphoria was debunked many years ago, even though every single person I know still says endorphin to represent euphoria. But as we're seeing here, that's just not true. So CBD interacts with the endocannabinoid system, reducing cytokine levels, downregulating overreactive immune cells, and reducing the impact of collateral inflammatory damage of tissues. The endocannabinoid system plays a vital role in exercise, mediating both central and peripheral effects such as bliss, peacefulness, and euphoria. Why is that? Because I'm not going to say, I'm just going to read it here. I'm just about to say the same thing I wrote here. Endocannabinoids like anandamide and 2-AG. So anandamide and 2-AG. Hey, what's up, Adam? How you doing, brother? Hey, Adam, we need to get on a live stream together ourselves soon. So we should do that very soon. I would love to chat with you about the awesome topics that me and you talk about in private for the entire world to see. Much love, brother. So endocannabinoids like anandamide and 2-AG, and anandamide and 2-AG were the first two endocannabinoids discovered. And there are many other endocannabinoids and endocannabinoid-like molecules that have been discovered since, but these are the two primary endocannabinoids, and compounds like CBD and THC can mimic these endocannabinoids. So if you ever hear the term cannabimimetic, CBD is a cannabimimetic. It mimics your endocannabinoids, which is amazing. So remember, this is going to the primary root of your physiological system, everything around you. So the endocannabinoids, like anandamide and 2-AG, activate the cannabinoid 1 and cannabinoid 2 receptors, providing benefits such as anti-inflammatory responses, reduced anxiety, and anti-proliferative effects like anti-cancer. CBD also inhibits endocannabinoid degradation, leading to increased binding to receptors. So inhibits endocannabinoid degradation. So essentially, the CBD goes in and then it goes to your endocannabinoids and it says, hey, chill over there, buddy. I'm going to take care of you. Don't die so fast. Don't degrade. You can chill, go gain your strength. And then when I'm done here, you can go back in. And that's actually the science of why phytocannabinoids like THC and CBD have been shown in the research to continue their effects after the person is not taking them anymore. So CBD also inhibits endocannabinoid degradation, leading to increased binding to receptors. Additionally, the endocannabinoid system is involved in brain-derived neurotrophic factor release, mood control, dopamine release, as we've already mentioned multiple times today, and fatty acid amide hydrolase release, which overlap with the positive benefits of exercise activated by TRPV1 ion channels, CB1 and CB2 cannabinoid 1, cannabinoid 2 receptors, and 5-HT1A receptors, which is serotonin 1A receptor. So going back to talking about dopamine and how there are all these different receptor sites and how when you say something like dopamine boost or dopamine hit, it doesn't even mean anything. It's the same thing here as we're seeing. Serotonin 1A receptor is one serotonin receptor out of multiple different serotonin receptors. And when a compound binds to serotonin receptor 1A over serotonin receptor 2A, there are literally different mechanisms of action from the 1A and the 2A. Same with cannabinoid receptor 1 and cannabinoid receptor 2. When THC binds to cannabinoid receptor 1, you get high. The same thing doesn't happen with cannabinoid receptor 2. The high feeling is not modulated by that receptor. It's just modulated by this other. Same thing with the serotonin, same thing with the dopamine, all these neurotransmitters. So when you say like, I'm low on serotonin or I need a boost of serotonin, it's like, it just sounds really dumb. So just think twice. If you're listening to this, even though everybody I say this to still says these things, serotonin receptors, serotonin molecules, the receptor sites make you feel different things. Okay. Serotonin 1A receptor is a more calming, relaxing receptor site, which CBD has action on. And then, fun fact, serotonin 2A receptor is what psilocybin and other psychedelics have action on. And that's a more hyper-excited receptor site, the 2A, compared to the 1A. So I always say, if you're trying to find balance in a psychedelic experience, then using a compound like CBD that scientifically regulates those receptor sites so that one receptor site isn't way too overactive, which can therefore result in what we know as bad trips. So to have the best experiences possible, one should be using practices that can balance and regulate the very system that is causing your psychedelic experience, the endocannabinoid system, and then a compound like psilocybin, which metabolizes to psilocin and then connects to serotonin 2A receptor. So psilocybin doesn't actually bind to the receptor site. fun fact, it converts to a compound called psilocin, and that binds directly to the serotonin 2A receptor. So, all right, sorry for that tangent. CBD can also help with sleep disorders that often accompany overtraining and overreaching in athletes. By simulating the endocannabinoid system, all right, let's see. Oh, CBD can also help with sleep disorders that often accompany overtraining and overreaching in athletes by stimulating the endocannabinoid system and modulating the sleep wake cycle. And actually, if you want to go learn about the science of the sleep wake cycle and the circadian rhythm of the sleep wake cycle, I have a video on my YouTube channel going over the science of that. In conclusion, CBD is an exciting area of research for sports and exercise recovery due to its potential to reduce inflammation, pain, and anxiety. The endocannabinoid system is involved in maintaining balance during exercise, and CBD can interact with this system to promote recovery. While more research is needed to determine optimal dosage and individual factors, which I would argue I've figured out the right optimal dosage is for CBD based off of the most generalized individual factors. Just throwing that out there, which is where these targeted products come from. CBD has shown promise as a natural aid for athletes in need of recovery. With further investigation, CBD may prove to be a valuable addition to existing recovery protocols, leading to improved physical and cognitive performance in athletes. And again, if you want to go read everything I just read, and if you want to go read that exact study word for word to yourself and go through the long study that I read to summarize that, you can check it out on speckerhealth.com and go to that Specker library and you will learn a lot. So that's just 3 that we read today. I'm going to go through a lot of these. I wrote a lot in just, wow, within like a few weeks time I wrote so many of these. I just implore you to go read these studies here. You know, we got studies from 1972 about CBD that I'm writing about here. So that all being said, we have been here now for almost an hour and a half. And as a result, that means that we are getting ready to get out of here. And as you know, if you watch my streams, you'll know what to do right now. Go be happy, go be healthy, go minimize your artificial light and maximize natural light as much as possible. Go find natural health practices and be as natural in your health as you can possibly be. And spread love and kindness to everyone around you, because the world becomes a better place starting with you. All right, y'all. I love you so much. If you're still here and you're watching right now, do me a huge favor. Check out my company. We got different products. All of the products are formulated personally by your boy right here. And we keep these ingredients as natural and minimal as we can. So do me a huge favor. Check out speckerhealth.com. Support Specker and continue to live a happy and healthy life. I'll see y'all soon. Love you.